I'm the co-founder of Wise Academy. It's a school. We have another school in Orlando. We have a camp. We have the only Muslim-owned camp in the country. I'm also an Islamic teacher and background in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Just changing people's thoughts, you change people's lives. And I also believe in possibility. So I deal with issues in the community from addiction to marriages to people having all types of feelings. And I'm just fascinated by success and our own each and individual human possibility. The way we worship Allah as if there's many gods. Because one day we pray, one day we may stop. One day we might have a good friend, the next day we go to the bad friend. One day we're good with our parents, the next day maybe not as much. But the way Allah treats us as if we are the only creation. That's how focused He is on us. And to prove it, you have 10 million cells right now being created in your body every second. And every second you have 10 million cells being destroyed. You have 25 trillion cells in your body. And each one of those cells, every breath you take, that breath, that oxygen goes to each cell. You have blood flowing through your heart, through vessels, 60,000 miles, where you could wrap, if you take the vessels out of your body, you could wrap it around the earth 3 times. Who's doing that for you? When you had a cut on your hand, who's healing you? Is it yourself thinking about it, or is there a greater intelligence at play? When you get a bone broken, who's healing that bone when the cast is put together? You just blinked your eyes. Imagine if you had to be reminded to blink by your friend, or you had to you'd go insane. Isn't that love? Isn't it? That's love. God has created you out of His infinite mercy and out of love. And if you can't be grateful for that, it's impossible to be grateful for anything else. For that's what causes us to go away from Allah. And that's what I'm a big believer on. When I meet people, and I'll share some stories. Just recently I was with Hajj Hussein at AB's Amazing Ribs, where 4 years ago I met somebody and he had a gift. His gift was in videography. So the first question I asked him, I said, how much money do you make? And he told me. And I said, I bet you your friends make the same amount of money. He's like, yeah, they're broke like me. I said, can you remove a few of them? Can you do a few other things? And I said, you have a very unique gift, but I don't want to see you again until you have at least $500,000 in your bank account. And then you could talk about how you want to help the orphans in Iraq, because he's Iraqi. So we're 4 years later, we're at the restaurant, and we were eating with him, and I forgot I gave him this advice. And he said, exactly what you told me. And he pulled out his phone. He said, okay, now what? I have $500,000. That's possibility. When a student comes to me and they're getting straight E's, where I have a lot of family members that work in the public schools, so I get referred a lot. And when they go from missing assignments, 150 missing assignments, to getting kicked out of school, and you give them one piece of advice, and then 30 days later, they go from getting kicked out to being on the honor roll. How does that happen? That's possibility. And that's where we're at. And when you look at your friends, because if you show me who your friends are, I'll show you who you are. If you hang out with 9 broke people, you're the 10th. If you read the Holy Quran, Allah says there's a personality, they didn't mention by name, but he's biting his hands on the Day of Judgment. And he's mad, and he's saying it in Surah Furqan, he's saying, oh my God, if I just would have taken the Prophet as my friend. Because the first day he met the Prophet, he took him as his friend, he got rid of the idols. That's us. We meet something, we do something that's positive, but then the next day he went back to his bad friends, said, worship the idols or else we're going to leave you. And because he couldn't think greater than the way he feels, he got scared to lose a friend, and he died in the battle fighting the Prophet. And in the day of judgment, he feels so much regret, so much remorse. And that's us. If we can't make decisions, if all your friends are talking about indecent things, gossiping, then that's who you are. And if you think you're any different, you're lying to yourself. And if you think it doesn't have an effect on you, you're lying to yourself. They've done a crossword puzzle, just a crossword puzzle of unscrambling negative words. Then they had another group, positive words. Then they told them, go and do this next task. But there's a person waiting. The person waiting was on a clipboard, and he was to not be disturbed. And they wanted to see how long would those people be patient. Guess what? The people with positive words, 6 minutes. The people with negative words, 2 minutes. Hello, I'm here. Why aren't you? And if you told those people that that crossword puzzle has a negative impact, they all would have said no. The same way we tell people, you know that music you listen to that talks about the negative things that has an impact? They say, no, it doesn't impact me. Do you know those friends that you hang out that are talking? Look in Dearborn High, Fortson, Crestwood. Look, my first cousin is the principal of Fortson. My other first cousin is the vice principal of Dearborn High. My other second cousin was the counselor at Crestwood. What's the conversations? How many of them date? Majority. How many of the men talk about the woman? Majority. What kind of friends? How many of them stay away? Majority can't, the pressure. So then I tell you, brothers and sisters, if you have a type of friend, think about it, that comes to you and says, I want to talk to you. I like you. Who loves that individual the most? Who's that individual's best friend? His mom, isn't it? Is he talking to that individual, to that girl or boy, behind his mom's back? Yes or no? Majority. Yes? Yes. They're not going to their mom, Ma, guess what? I got a date. They're doing it behind their mom's back. The girl didn't click in her head that that's a flag. That's a bad friend. Why? Because if he's willing to speak to you behind his mom's back, who every day at 2 o'clock in the morning used to feed him and change his diaper, and he's willing to betray her trust, you don't think he'll betray you? And we paint a picture because we feel all bubbly, and then heartbreak follows. So I do a lot of counseling of heartbreak. Because if you don't think that person's going to break your heart after he broke his mother's heart, you're lying to yourself. So don't get in those relationships. If you're about to, tell your mom. I was with my wife at a restaurant. I'm an intuitive counselor. I see a sister. It's very sad, the waitress. I told my wife, I bet you she just went through a breakup and she didn't tell her father. Sometimes like counseling I do, I said, you're having an affair. You don't have to tell me, but if you're here to really get help. Or somebody would call me, my person I was supposed to marry just broke up with me. I bet you he has a bad friend who's got his ear. How did you know? So my wife looks at this waitress and says, please don't ask her. I couldn't help it. I said, look, I have a question. My background's in behavioral science. Did you just go through a breakup? She started to tear. I said, how did you know? I said, did you keep it from your father? I said, yeah. I said, that's why that man took advantage of you. Because he knew nobody's there to protect you. And that's why he wanted to keep you a secret, for no other reason. I said, my advice to you is go tell your father and allow yourself to be vulnerable. Because if you can't trust your parents with this information, there's nobody, and you're going to be treated like an orphan and be taken advantage of. Why? You're not orphans. Go to your parents for protection. We see her 1 month later. She tried to give me a hug. She said, you have no idea the relationship. So what do? Whenever somebody says I have a bad friend or I'm in a bad relationship, I give them a relationship test. There was a sister who came in recently. Said, oh, you have this friend? I said, okay. Communication and openness between a 0 and a 6. 1. 6 being good. Resolving conflicts, 1. Overall satisfaction, 1. I said, okay, he's perfect for you. I said, why? You're a 1 too. That's what you deserve to be. And every time you see him, you're a 1. Just remind yourself that you're attracted to that. And I said, what's your relationship with your father? Oh, it's horrible. But I'm not leaving him for anything. Don't ask me to leave this friend that I like a lot. 2 weeks go by. She says, guess what? And she came as a new person. She said, every time I saw him as a 1, and I realized I deserve better. And I went to my father, and her life changed. That person who had missing assignments said, I'm going to invest in you. I know a person who, inshallah, his business will be worth $1 billion. He's really good in IT. He really understands the cybersecurity world. And he lives in DC. So he went from being kicked out of school to getting advice from somebody like that. That's possibility. But he had to change in order for his reality to change. There was a person in Fortson. He had a full ride scholarship. Full ride football scholarship. A friend told him, hey, guess what? Come and rob this place that I work at. Wear a mask. I'll give you the money. We'll take half the money. He listened to his friend. Just like some of us listen to our friends when we do bad things. It'll start off small, right? Because your friends are here. If you try to elevate, they have 2 choices. They change, which is hard, or they do what? Bring you down. It's so much easier just to bring you down. And most times we're brought down. He told his friend, sure, I'll go. He goes. Somebody's witnessing this theft from outside, and across the street are the police. Right when he leaves, the police are right there and catch him. He's serving 10 years in prison. Bad friend. That's possibility in the bad things. That's shaitan. And every day we have those challenges. And sometimes we could be our own worst enemy. So the opening question that I have is, what are 4 characteristics that you could look at somebody and truly call them a friend, that when you talk to them, they're not telling somebody else about your secrets that you're going through? Who could name one? What's one characteristic you could trust in a friend? Loyalty. What else? Yes. Say, you gotta, it's because of the noise of the traffic. You gotta scream it. Trust, loyalty. We'll see. We'll just go 4. We'll see if you get the 4. Yes. Huh? Kindness. What's the 4th? There for you in a time of need. So the Prophet ﷺ says there's 4. A friend that knows your needs. Do you have friends that only care about sports, the next day, what's going on in the world? When's the last time your friend said, what are your needs? Ask yourself. Because if you're not in a circle of friends that are only talking about themselves, there's some friends in this community, everybody's trying to get married, right? Their friends who are single find out that this sister is trying to get married. What they'll do, they'll try to break it up out of jealousy. And then later we find out that they were then trying to go marry that individual. That happens. So you have to now be careful who you're sharing information with. Right? I have a cousin of mine. He sold his IT company for $500 million. He said, the way I did it, I was very secretive of what I was doing. Nobody knew. Because I know nobody could live at that level. Some of us are taking advice from people that got $5 in their pocket and asking them about success. Don't do that. Find people who are very successful. So the 4th characteristic is asking you for your needs. What are they? Knowing what your needs are. Helping you, being able to help you with those needs. Because sometimes our friends tell us, okay, what's your problem? Oh, I'm sorry. But then they don't offer any help. Be careful. A true friend, if they can't help you, they'll find somebody. A true friend is not somebody who's miserly. What does that mean? If you're in a group of friends and they're talking, gossiping about other people, and you're choosing to stay their friend, wallahi, I'm telling you, they will do the same thing with you one day. If you're at a friend, even at a restaurant, and they're talking about how bad this food is and this waitress, and they're looking at people as second class, run. Because I promise you they're going to treat you the same way. So, knowing what your needs are, asking you what your needs are, don't be miserly. Somebody who's merciful and kind. Not friends that are just mean. You ever have friends? Ever hear of energy vampires? You meet somebody, and after you hang up with, you're just exhausted. I see some nods. Those are the type of people you don't ask how their day is. You don't want to know. You know, when I meet, we meet a lot of people. I do some programs for adults every Wednesday, and I sense them. You know what I tell them? Send me an email of your problems. Because you help them, they're not looking for help. They're looking for somebody to dump their garbage on. You know, all these years I've been doing this, since 2007, no energy vampires ever emailed me. You're not going to be able to help them. The worst is when you fall in love with an energy vampire who needs your help now. Brothers and sisters, don't marry anybody because of a friendship that you helped. Help them, but don't marry them. Because you'll be always stuck at this level. And energetically, you're not a match. You want to find somebody at your level. So those are the 4 characteristics. If you're looking for a good friend, write down characteristics you want. You want wisdom, you want compassion, you want positive character. Make sure you're those things. And then you'll attract it. And that's what I'm big on. Teaching people how to overcome themselves. See, we've been tricked thinking we need something outside of us to feel joy and happiness. We need wealth to feel abundant. We need a relationship to feel love. We need something outside of us to feel spiritual. God has a system. He says, you don't need any of it. You're enough. And as soon as these people that I help take this concept, their lives change. Brother Hussein, my marriage has changed. The addiction is gone. I deal with a lot of addicts in the community. Even other issues that, because we're at a mosque, I won't even discuss. But it's just people overcoming themselves and believing in their own possibility. So I'm big in meditation. There's a non-Muslim who came to the book club 2 weeks ago. Not this Wednesday, the Wednesday before. Came in, we spoke about a concept in 40 Hadith, and then we're reading A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Then we did a 45-minute meditation, which involves some du'as as well. Then we do testimonials. One lady said, I asked God 4 days ago to show me what happiness is. I haven't felt it. Said it's the first time I felt it. Another person said, I'm dealing with so many issues internally. It's the first time where I don't feel like I need those things. One of the brothers is actually here. The other person said, I want to talk. He was a black brother, beautiful brother, non-Muslim. He says, I'm going to be very honest with you. It's the first time I felt free in about 6 and 7 years, where I didn't think of anything else. So we ended the meditation, and I'm walking with him outside, and I said, is this your car? He said, yeah. He was driving a $200,000 Ferrari. He lives in a multi-million-dollar home in West Bloomfield. And I was telling the students at WISE, we've been fooled thinking when we get the Ferrari, we get the house, we get the pretty girl, then I'll be happy. Where God said, you allowed shaitan to fool you. You don't need any of it to achieve happiness. Be happy within, and then when you attract these things, they will only elevate you. You won't be a slave to them. Next week, this last Wednesday, he brings a friend. Same issues. He's driving a Porsche 911, brand new. And he's telling me how they have these friends. Some of them have 15 Ferraris. and none of them are happy. And it took somebody's suggestion, because he prayed to God, show me where happiness lies. And he ends up at the school, at the prayer hall, at 11 o'clock in the night, far away from home. That's possibility. But you have to be circled by good friends that encourage that behavior. I believe everybody here is on a personal relationship between you and your Lord. I deal with some people who sell their bodies in this community, Muslims, some people who sell drugs, some people who cheat, some people who, and every time I look at them, I honestly believe, I look at them, said, I think if I were in your shoes, I'd probably do the same thing. So if you wear hijab, you don't wear hijab, you pray, you don't pray, let me tell you something, I don't care. And let me tell you another thing, neither does anybody else. Stop worrying about what everybody thinks about you. Nobody's thinking about you. It's a personal journey between you and Allah. Don't ever forget that. Don't look for things to please you. You don't need it. So anyways, there's a sister who's texting me. Because there's this fad now where people are celebrating taking off the hijab. Congratulations. And it's their friends congratulating them. So the sister's texting me, I want to take off my hijab right now. And if you don't call me, I'm going to take it off. So I text her back, I really don't care if you take it off or not. Right? Because whenever I deal with a lot of suicide cases. Alhamdulillah, I've never lost a suicide case. So I gave her, and I wanted to give her an ayah of the Quran. But I couldn't remember which ayah. It went blank. So I'm talking to her, I said, look, I got to go speak. It's on Wednesday. I shut my phone off. A sister comes. Says, I had a dream about you. I said, really? I said, yeah. So I'm going to tell you after your speech. I said, okay. I have the speech. She comes. She said, this was the dream. You don't know this, but I've been wanting to take off my hijab. And my friend was in the dream. And I didn't know she also wanted to take off the headscarf. And then a person came and handed me an ayah of the Quran, Surah Nisa, about the covering. O women, O believers, to be successful, cover. Be modest, lower your gaze. And then the person said, you could either follow your body desires or you could follow God's desires. Because our best friend is Allah. If He's truly our best friend, we'll do what He says. And then I said, wow. Because I'm thinking about the girl I was texting 45 minutes ago. She goes, you want to know what's really weird? Is you said wow in the dream. And she's thinking I'm like some holy figure, that's why I was in a dream. I said, no. I didn't know the ayah, that's why I'm in the dream. Look how Allah brought it to me. Not only when she spoke to her friend did her friend keep on the hijab, not only did she keep on the hijab, the girl that texted me kept on the hijab. That's possibility. I believe if you tap into the divine, Allah that's within you and all around you, and feel that joy and love that He has for you, you don't no longer need the iPhone 13 to feel whole. You really, really don't. We've been possessed by our possessions, and then our friends have been possessed by our possessions, and if you don't get the next thing, your friends look down at you. Just think about it. What if I gave you the same exact iPhone, but it doesn't have the Apple symbol on it? What if those Jordans, or they have these Sleazies, Yeezys, whatever they are, right? Let's say the Jordan label is removed. Would it feel the same? Even though it's the same shoe, it wouldn't. Because your emotions are dependent to something outside of you. And our friends are the same way. So if you have any friends that are not serving, they talk about other people, they bring you down. Even older brothers. If you have friends, if you're making $80,000, $90,000 a year and you're stuck and you want to do greater things for Allah, most likely your friends are making $80,000, $90,000. You now have to break out of your comfort zones and say, what can I do? Let me find a new friend that's out there. Unfortunately, after the age of 35, we don't do that. We get in a routine. Can you imagine if you watch the same movie every day. Avengers, every day. And I force you guys for the next 2 years to watch the same movie every day. Would you be miserable? That's people's lives. They wake up, they check their iPhone, they take a picture of their feet, post it on Instagram, brush their teeth, yell at their kids, go to work, complain about a job that they don't like, come home, listen to their wife complaining, talk to their kids, go to sleep. And then they're miserable. And I'm meeting a lot of 35 and up that are just unhappy because they forgot about their dreams and imaginations when they were kids, and they went back to being very limited because they think this is the way they be. You're an unlimited being. So what are you going to do to change? And change is just not making the same choices as yesterday. So how do you change? Find a good friend. What's one thing I should change about myself? Go to your parents. What's one thing I should change? Or go to your old self that had those dreams and relive it and say, what can I do to achieve it? And that's what I'm fascinated about. Is that when people do it, there was 2 brothers at the camp. They were 17 and 18. They said, I'll give 2 stories and want to open up to Q&A. They said, Brother Hussein, we don't want to go to college, but our parents are forcing us. You know, there's this fad now, no college. Let me invest in ETH. Let me understand NFTs. Let me get a little bit into crypto, right? And unfortunately, when I say NFTs and crypto, people have no idea what it is. What is digital currency and so on. But they're still investing in it, which is okay. So I said, do you believe you have a gift? They said, yeah. I said, okay, you don't resist. Let's say if you're looking to get married to somebody and your parents don't agree, you don't get married to them. You convince your parents. Prove it to them. So that's what I told them. I said, don't quit, but guess what? You got to do the work. What's the work? You're not watching Netflix on Sundays. You're not watching football on Sundays. You're not hanging out with your boys. You're going to school. Everything else is devoted to this business that you have. And then your parents will be convinced, I promise you. But pray to Allah. I said, okay. 2 years go by. We had COVID. We didn't have a camp. I see him 2 years later. Every 6 months, I'm giving them advice. And they're taking it. They're applying it. They call me at camp and say, okay, Brother Hussein, you won't believe what happened. We're now making $40,000 a month. They live in Canada, in Toronto. And our parents, because they believed us in so much, they tripled their business. They just bought $1 million home. And they said, hey, that college thing, yeah, don't worry about it. But what do? Instead of giving options to our parents and trying to go after things the godly way, we hold on to a grudge and we don't let it go until our parents give in. Thus, we have such a high divorce rate in this community because we don't want to do it God's way. You know, there's no blessings when you do things behind your parents' back. 0. And that thing that you think is going to be good for you, Allah says that I'm going to reverse it and it's going to be your karma. Don't be scared to talk to your parents. You guys know Halal Food Junkie? Everybody knows him, right? He came to me a couple years ago. He didn't know what to do. I said, Brother Hussein, I'm confused. I said, you're not confused. Tell me what you like to do. He says, I love promoting food on the web. I said, can you go all in 12-hour days, 7 days a week? If you want to truly be an entrepreneur. And I gave him a big number. In his mind, he said, that's impossible. 6 months would go by. Now what? Look at this. Another 6 months. Now what? He says, Brother Hussein, now I'm living life on my terms. But he did the work. He got rid of the bad friends. He got rid of the energy vampires. All of us want our reality to change by staying as the same personality. It just doesn't work. Stop doing that. And stop blaming. Do you know when there's an expectation in our life and we don't meet it? If you go to the older brothers, say, didn't you expect to build an orphanage by now? Didn't you expect to do things? They said, yeah. Most people, when they don't reach an expectation, what do? They blame. Instead of blaming and coming up with excuses, develop a habit of saying, this is a habit I'm going to do to achieve here. Do you know what this conversation does to you? Guys, my background is in behavioral science and CBT. I counsel, I help addicts, people who've the community is completely given up on. We've spent 30 grand a month in rehab centers. Do you know what this conversation does for you? Zero. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because this conversation is about conscious talk. Because if this conversation could impact you, then nobody had a better conversation than the Prophet ﷺ. Nobody was a better speaker. Yet he didn't change people. They still betrayed him. Even his so-called friends, as soon as he passed away, weren't even at his grave. What this does for you is say consciously, what tool am I going to use to rewire this program, this habit machine, that I could apply to change my future? And as soon as you do that, your life changes. Does everybody here have at least maybe one friend they should probably spend a little less time with? Every day is raining. You know when my life changed? I'll give you a personal story. And then we'll do the Q&A, I promise. I have so many other things to share. In 2006, I had a lot of friends. A lot. My life, my God was my friends. I would give my life for them, they would give my life for me. But even if I gave my life to them, does that mean I'm going to go to heaven? We forget about our best friend. Hajj, you know Ali Abdullah? He was at Century 21. Where is he at now? I'm losing the name. EXP. You guys see him, some of you. You know Dave Abdullah? His brother. He comes to me. By the way, Dave Abdullah, bad friends. He used to go and pick up garbage to find clothes. He couldn't afford clothes. He would go to garbages on Miller Street and Oakman Street in people's garbage looking for clothes. He said he got rid of his friends. He manifested. He wouldn't move until he envisioned his future. And then he would put number 1 in Michigan twice a day in a shower. He became not only number 1 in Michigan, he became number 1 in the US. His first thing he said, he had to get rid of his bad friends. We want these big dreams, but we don't want to change our environment. And we want to keep talking the same way and doing the same things and hoping, praying to God, something's going to happen. That's your ego. God says, I answer all the prayers of the one who calls on me, but not of the ego, of the heart. And if you're willing to change, God will change your whole destiny. And I could write a book on testimonials of people that I have helped. But I'll share my story. His brother comes to you, says, Brother Hussein, there's this guy speaking at Sheikh Ilahi's mosque. I think you should go listen to him. It's like, no, my friends, I'm going out. He says, come on, I'll take you. I said, no. He asked me to, and he left, came back, asked me again. I said, no. I'm at the Fairlane Club. It was a gym. I'm sitting. So I'm different. Look, we do healings. I'm a big believer in prayer. Like, why is it when people go to Imam Rida alayhi salam or Imam Hussein shrine, the paralysis goes away, the cancer goes away? The last 4 years I've been studying the science. And I've been meeting people and helping people overcome themselves. We have testimonials for that too. Because that's praying to Allah. You have that within you. So anyways, I said no. I sit down, I'm alone, whisper in my ear. You know, we believe in a talking God. We believe angels sometimes could wake us up. Angels sometimes could protect us. This isn't the Holy Quran. We believe you could ask Allah to split a sea and He could split it for you. We believe if we could talk to Allah, we could be thrown in fire and it won't affect us. We believe in all these possibilities. That's the Quran. It's filled with possibilities. But we feel separate from us because we think we need something outside of us to make us feel whole. That's why we don't really believe. If we truly believe, we would do the work. It's like I ask people, do you know why you don't wake up for Fajr? Do you know why you don't wake up and meditate? Because you truly don't believe that it's going to affect the rest of your day. If you want to get married on time, pray on time. You want to have that job, that rizq from Allah? You want the next Uber idea? Pray on time. But we don't believe it because we've never gone through that situation. So I didn't believe it. Something whispered, go. I went. I sat all the way upstairs. Sheikh Alayhi's 2 levels. I went all the way upstairs, and the person spoke about, because I was arrogant. I'm a natural entrepreneur. I had a Corvette. I was arrogant. Take 3 vacations. One summer I took 3 cruises. I was looking for happiness, and nothing I could find brought me happiness. I went and speak, and the person's talking about how funny human beings, the way they look for happiness, that brings them nothing for sadness. It's like somebody says you're beautiful, and you feel great, and then you become depressed when the beauty goes away, because you were dependent on the beauty. You identified yourself as a beautiful person from the outside. Well, Allah says, no, it's within. People, why do they commit suicide after they lose their job? They identified themselves through the job. They were attached to it. So I went there, I didn't move. I couldn't move after the lecture. I said, man, this person wrecked me. I said, I need to meet this person. So the first prayer I did, I said, Allah, remove all my friends that take me away from you. I swear, because that day I had 20 missed calls. You won't believe what happened. Where were you? I said, man, you won't believe what happened. You got to come and listen to this guy speak. I asked Allah, remove all my friends were gone. I became very lonely and depressed. Then I asked Allah, bring me new friends that bring me closer to you. Who is the friend? That person speaking. And because of that, we started Wise Academy, the camp, Orlando, and all the other projects we do. That's possibility. I'm living proof of it here. In the last 15 years, all I've tried to do every day is just gain a little bit of knowledge. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life showing people as much as I can that they don't need anybody to validate them. And you're responsible for your own happiness. There's a guy who wanted to commit suicide. He calls me. He says, Brother Hussein, I said, brother, can you do the work? Can you meditate and don't move until you convince your body that it's going to happen? Just like in a dream. You have a nightmare, your body's convinced of it. You have a great dream, your body's convinced. That's why you get upset when you wake up, right? Do you know you could do that eyes open? And as soon as you convince yourself of something that you want, and then Allah says, be grateful, and I'm going to give it to you unexpectedly. How do you become grateful before something shows up in this 3D world? You close your eyes and you thank Allah for it. I'm grateful for the next opportunity. I'm grateful for that spouse that you're bringing me, Allah. Thank you. There's no longer, I need something or I want something. You never pray, oh Allah, I need something. Do you know why? You're telling your body that you're lacking it. Don't pray that way. The Prophet ﷺ overcame the Kaaba. He already knew it was going to happen. He already saw it. It wasn't a surprise for him. So I told this brother, can you do this work? He said, sure. I said, wake up every day and do it. He said, okay. Where do you want to work? He wanted to work for the state. So he's closing his eyes, imagining he's working the state. Mental rehearsal, reciting a dua. Then he says, and I told him, ask Allah to show you signs. He kept seeing Cadillac, Cadillac, Cadillac. Middle of COVID. COVID just started actually. We're shut down. He goes on the road. There's nobody on the road. He sees Cadillacs. He turns on the TV. He sees Cadillacs. He calls the unemployment office a couple days later. The lady says, I like you, after on hold for 3 hours, because he had a problem with his unemployment. Says, I want you to come work for me. He calls me, Brother Hussein, 1 week later, I'm working for the state. He goes to pick up his laptop from downtown Detroit. His brother's within our community. He goes and picks it up from the Cadillac building. That brother can never go back to the person that he was. It's impossible. There's a sister at her school. She was a senior. My mom won't let me be a pilot. My friends keep making fun of me. Stop talking to your friends and envision that future of you, the pilot, of being a pilot, and email the instructor at Eastern Michigan. Whatever that you want to do, stop asking your friends who got $5 in their pocket. Email somebody who's at that 10x level success. I do an entrepreneur club for our students at WISE Who comes and meets them? People are worth millions of dollars. And then we add the spiritual component of what are you going to do? How are you going to serve others? Because that should be on top of your list. So the sister says, okay, I'll do it. She emails the person. She prays. The person emails her from Eastern Michigan. I understand your story. Can you bring your mom to the school next week? She said, sure. They get there. He says, get in this plane. And the mom says, no way. He says, get in. They get in this plane. Some of you know her. And the mom is in the back. 1 week later, she's flying the plane with her mom in the back reciting dua. Brothers and sisters, my advice to you, everybody, pray bold prayers. Ask yourself, what habits do I need to change now that are not serving myself to my future self? I don't care what age you are. And what friends do you need to get rid of? Not by burn bridges. Just ask Allah, I need to stop having these friends, because that's all we're talking about is gossip and other people. And ask Allah to bring you new friends. That's when my life changed. It took one friend. And now we're doing millions of dollars worth of projects. All hopefully for the sake of Allah, if Allah accepts it. Somebody would have told me 20 years ago I would be doing this. I said, impossible. Somebody would say just the healings, teaching people how to truly pray, to overcome themselves, I would have said impossible. And that's possibility. Believe in yourself and love yourself enough to remove any negativity in your life. And just watch what happens. Your whole destiny changes. That person that had 150 missing assignments, was about to be kicked out of school, now was talking to that person in cybersecurity. They just changed their destiny by changing their friends. If you have any friend that's an energy vampire and it doesn't serve you, trust me, they're not going to care if you're 40 years old, broke and divorced. Wallahi, they're not going to care. Not only are they not going to care, they're going to talk about you. Don't believe in anything else. And if you're in a relationship and it's not serving and it's high energy to keep it and it's exhausting and you're codependent on this person or this person is codependent on you, stop. You're not allowed to get married until you love yourself. And stop saying, if I'm 30, oh my God, it's late. Oh, I'm 35. I always tell people, oh, you want to get married when you're not ready? 25? Would you rather be unhappily married with 2 kids or happily single? Think about it. Stop looking for things that won't satisfy you because the society's telling you, get married. It's the sunnah. But be ready. Learn to love yourself. If I gave you guys $300,000 a year, $3 million right now, each and every one of you, I hand it to you. I go get my friend who's worth it, and they could probably do it. But there's one catch. You're not allowed to wake up tomorrow. Would you do it? No. So your life is worth more than $3 million. Please don't get into things that if they get exposed, you're not going to want to wake up. Look at everything in your life and anticipate any problem. Saying, if this becomes public, I will become embarrassed. If that's true, I promise you, wallahi, if you stop doing it, God says in the Holy Quran, I'm going to replace it with something better. And I'm living proof of it. And that's my cause. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. As you can tell, this subject, because it hit home, it's very personal to me. And I'm sorry if I went over. But can you tell the person next to you what's either one thing you're going to do or one habit you're going to change when you leave here? Because then it's worth this talk being out here. Go. Remove your ego. Surrender. Ahmed, share. He needs to tell you one thing he's going to do. Right now.
I find it hard, like, as much as I'm talking about it. I don't know, it's just, and like being here, it makes me realize, okay, maybe this is trying to cut it off. Like, it's so low to go around here, but at the same time, I think about all like the love that she might bring me, but so far, so it's like, inshallah,
Okay. The other thing is find an accountability partner. Your mom, your dad. Make a promise. Whatever, like sometimes I'll do it in front of the school. I'll put their parents. I say, okay, Ma, what's one thing he should improve? Oh, praying on time. It's always number one, praying on time. I said, okay, Mom, for the next 2 weeks, he's going to pray on time, but there's a catch. You're not going to remind him. Because that's why he's not praying on time. He's dependent on you. And we'll call you, and then 2 weeks later, we'll call the mom. Oh my God, I'm so much less stressed because I don't have to remind them in the whole school. So what you do is you go to your mom, your brother, your sister, somebody you trust, and you make a promise to God, whatever they tell me, I'm going to do. And just observe what happens to you 2 weeks later. And we have so many stories I could share of the time of the Prophet, of the people who changed, their lives changed because of it. Any questions? Any questions at all? Yes? Yeah, so the way you're becoming it, don't be an energy vampire, is Imam Khomeini Allah Rahmahu said, at the end of the day, so in the beginning of the day, you tell yourself, this is what I'm grateful for. Because gratefulness is the best emotion to have. Because Allah says, when you're grateful, give you more. I'm grateful for my nose. I'm grateful for my eyebrows. I'm grateful. I can move my fingers. I could close my eyes and be in Europe within a millisecond. Grateful, right? Second thing is, what thoughts do I want to have today? What are the thoughts that I don't want to have today? But here's the key. And this is the part we hate doing. At the end of the day, how did I do? How did I speak? Was I serving to myself? Imam Khomeini Allah Rahmahu says that's one of the hardest things because we hate answering to ourselves. And then we don't want to do it. And then we let go of the practice. So just when you go to sleep today, ask yourself, because a lot of people will live 30 years living the same person, same movie, without ever asking that question of reflecting on their day. That's scary. That's insanity. So at the end of the day, how did I do? Did I talk back to my mom? When that person cut me off, did I beep at them? When I opened the door and that person didn't tell me thank you, why did I get upset? Did I open up the door because of my ego and I was expecting something back? Did I backbite? And if you don't do this, don't expect to change. It's impossible. You have to do that's the work. To reflect on that. I'm going to say this story. Please, if I offend anybody, I'm sorry. I think for some reason it's important. I deal with a lot. There's nothing that you could tell me that I haven't dealt with in this community. Be careful of marijuana, brothers and sisters. The second most toxic thing to the brain is marijuana. It causes schizophrenia. And I'm sending people who are normal, fine. They started doing marijuana. We're taking them to mental hospitals. Stop. It's the second most toxic thing to the brain. More than cocaine, crack, any of it. It's been proven scientifically. Study Daniel Amen if you don't believe. But out of this story, I think, just shows possibility. So we have this thing where we're at the acceptance era. Just let people be. I said, but what if people want a choice to be something different? So I deal a lot with homosexuality in the community. It's the gene that gets triggered by the environment. And when the environment triggers it, then these feelings come. I was at this meditation retreat. And it's the hardest thing to do because there's no studies on if somebody wanted to be straight, if they're gay, is there anything they could do? Because what's funny is if they're this way, leave them alone, just let them be. But what if they don't want to be that way? Isn't that choice available? Why are you judging that if you're telling us not to judge? So I've helped people think greater than the way they feel, the people, some of them. It was very difficult. It's the hardest thing I deal with. I was at a retreat in Florida, and there's a brother sitting, and he's telling me about his mom, how he's negative, he can't stand her, they always argue, and how his father left him. So I leave, I go to my hotel room. I get an inspiration. It was weird. You need to go and tell this person he's not this way, that he actually likes women. It's like, how am I going to tell this person that? Like it's me telling like somebody who likes women to like guys. Like, how do you tell somebody that? So I said, Allah, how would I tell somebody? It make no sense. So I dismissed it. I get out of my room. He's right in front of me by the hotel. I said, brother, can I share something with you? He said, yeah. I said, I think you're this way because it's a misplaced resentment towards your father, and this is the way you lash out. I really don't believe you're this way. He looks at me, and I always get this line. Ahmed's here to attest to it. It's funny you say that. I'm about to go have lunch with this female, and I'm about to tell her that I don't like this gender. I said, can you just be open and stop labeling yourself? And just try to be conscious of it. He said, I'm going to try. 2 months go by. I'm at another retreat. He's there. I'm eating alone. I get a tap on the shoulder. God is my witness. I'm at the mosque. I get a tap on the shoulder. Says, hey, Brother Hussein, I want you to meet somebody. This is my fiance. If I would have first judged him for being that way or thrown him in hell, that possibility wouldn't have been given to me. And the key is to look at everybody with the love and lens of compassion. Especially yourself. Stop looking in the future through the lens of your past. Let go. Forgive that person. Show compassion. Let it go. It doesn't exist anymore. And I believe that's possibility. Any other questions? Anything at all? Yes? Can somebody repeat? I can't hear you, that's why. Okay, instead of praying or meditating, then, along with that, small habits that you could do. So, prayer. We just prayed Friday prayer, correct? If you leave Friday prayer and you cut somebody off, that prayer had no effect on you. Meditation. If you meditated, but as soon as you leave, you're being bad to yourself. It has no effect. Prayer starts when it ends. The other thing is a routine. The most successful people have a routine. So brothers that are still in high school, college, if you don't have a routine, you're always going to be working for somebody who's going to give you a routine. You're always going to be a salary slave. I promise you. Get a routine. When you wake up, the same time every day. Be predictable. You wake up, you go to the gym. What are the foods that you eat? How are you serving your brain? It's the biggest organ. Are you eating carbs? A lot of negative foods? Caffeine? You know caffeine causes brain fog. So have a routine of your diet. Have a routine of the things that you do. Give yourself leisure time. But it's within your routine. Most of us, when I get to it, you're never going to get to it. My biggest habit is read. If you don't like to read, watch a YouTube video. Learn. Because if you're not growing, you're dying. Look at everything in nature. If it stops growing, what happens? It dies. Many people after the age of 35 are now dying because they're not growing. The Prophet ﷺ didn't say gain knowledge from the cradle to you're 30, till you die. Imam Khomeini Allah Rahmah was on his deathbed reciting Surah Yasin. He said, why? You already memorized it. He said, I don't want to die ignorant. So have a routine and don't break that routine for anybody. For the last 15 years, I read a book a week. For the last 15 years, I go to sleep listening to a lecture. There's not a lecture. If you see all the popular ones, I've listened to them all. Just have a routine. Ask yourself, guys, do you have a routine? Can you share with the person next to you a routine that you're going to start adopting? And make a promise to God, that's a trail for success. Go. Promise. That's true. But do you believe if you start one, your life will change? If you truly believe it, then why not do it?
I feel like I'll try to start one. If like it'll go on like
No, but if you have a vision of the future, by the way, a routine only works if you have a big vision. You want an orphanage. You want to, what is it that you want to do that's serving to you? So if you have a routine but you don't have a vision, it doesn't work. Vision and the routine you're going to do today to create that vision. So it's good you said that. Go. Go. Everybody. Okay, good. Please don't underestimate prayer. If you don't pray, people will judge you. Don't tell anybody. Trust me, just pray. Don't even tell anybody. Watch what happens after. I promise you, every prophet of God, before they passed away, they said, Salat, Salat, Salat. Brothers and sisters, we've achieved success two ways. We ask Allah. We've never done a fundraiser. We have probably 20 to 30 million. You've never seen a wise fundraiser. You never will. Or a Camp Taha fundraiser. The second, praying. The second, it's the way me and Hajj Hassanin treat our moms. Honestly, if our parents told us go on this roof and spend 3 weeks on the roof, because the Prophet's teachings, we would go on the roof. Because you have no idea how that affects everything in your life. So a routine, Dave Abdullah, remember Dave Abdullah? You know what routine he adapted to be successful? He would go visit his mom every night. So every day, ask your mom if she needs something. How are you, mom? Remember, be serving. Know her needs, fulfill her needs. And don't be miserly. Don't do things behind her back. Please, your life will change. I promise you. I probably have 1,000 testimonials just in this community of the people I've helped in 13 years. And I help people all over the world. Our book club, The Meditation, has about 350 from people all over the world. New Zealand, Australia. And just people sharing stories of overcoming themselves. And you're all welcome. It's Wednesday at 8:15 p.m. But something we never advertise. You're welcome to come. What's somebody's routine that they're going to start and make it a testament to everybody? Sister right behind, not you, but the right down, yes. What's one thing you're going to start doing? A little bit different. Do you have kids? I do. Okay, so when your kids make a mistake, instead of you showing the emotion out of anger because they made a mistake, you're going to hold it, and then an hour later you're going to say, because I love you, I'm going to take your iPad away. And it's going to be out of love. Because when you do it out of anger, they're going to stop doing the bad thing because of fear, not out of love. And then when you go out of the picture, there it goes. They go back to the bad habit. Is that something you could start doing? So how would I know that? Your kids told me. We have really bad parenting going on in the country. And that's the number one problem. We discipline out of anger, not out of love. You'll lose your kids. Has to be. Imam Ali alayhi salam. By the way, if you're raising your kids the same way you were raised, Imam Ali alayhi salam says you're going to lose them. Don't. Kids going to college. If you're on, just tangent a little bit, I'm sorry, but it's a tool. Dopamine. You guys know dopamine? It's chemical. It hits the brain. So when you're on your iPad or on Instagram or saving the world in some video game, you just got a dopamine drop. That's why when people tell you, let's go into nature, let's go walk around the block. Boring. And then you're told, okay, go in front of this teacher and listen to him. Boring, because you just got a dopamine drop. And do you know what happens with that dopamine drop? You need more of it. Does that sound like an addiction to you? Yes or no? My advice to you is spend time, but don't spend more than 10 hours a week on these platforms. Anything more, your depression levels go up by 60% because you need more of it, it develops an addiction. If you go on your guys' screen time, on average, it's 8 hours a day. They got you. You've been brainwashed. And you think you need more of it to feel fulfilled. And somebody now puts an Instagram post of their fake life and they get some crazy quote that's really nothing that they know. And then they got the 50 likes. And if they don't get the likes, they become depressed. Just be careful. You don't need any of it. Do the post, but don't be dependent on it for happiness. Please. It's a great tool, but use it the right way. Yes, brother. Alaikum salam. Yeah, so if your friends, if you go and tell your friend, just simple, I have this great idea, and your friends shoot it down and make fun of you, run. That's it. If you see your friends doing things behind their parents' back or talking about others, run. They're not serving to you. They're going to do this. It's not rocket science. The simplest, would you allow that person in 150 minutes? I asked them, go and look at your friends and ask you, would you allow your kids one day to hang out with such people? If the answer is no, you either allow the body to take over the mind and keep doing it, or you think greater than the way you feel. That's it. Would you allow your friends to hang out? Would you allow your kids to hang out? Look, I'm best friends with an NBA player. This is how the mind-body reaction works. He said, I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning. He said, sometimes I would manifest holding $1 million and I'd be surprised when it wasn't there. In 3rd grade. He envisioned closing down high school arenas in middle school. He did it. But he said, here's the interesting thing. I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning at 3rd grade and I did the work. If it was raining, I did it. And all my friends made fun of me. He said he decided not to listen to any of them because he wanted to get his mom out of the ghetto. So the kid says, bet, I'll do it. I want to make the NBA. I said, okay. The alarm clock goes off. The mind says NBA. The body says, you loser, go back to sleep. And if you can't think greater than the way you feel, you're going back to sleep and you're always going to be limited. And you're always going to complain why life hasn't been serving you. And then you're going to complain to God. See this talk, like I said, it does nothing. Brothers and sisters, Shaitan, right when you get in your car, he's going to try to make you forget everything. Take 2 things and say, no matter what, I'm going to apply it. And I promise you, you're going to see change. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we cry every year. But the main scholar said there's no change in the community. Because as soon as the tears go away, the habits are staying the same. The outer aspects of Imam Hussein alayhi salam are there.